I'll do that.
It's 1:30. I think we're out to get started. I've never hosted an ITV meeting before, so I'm not quite sure. Hopefully everyone can hear me. If you can't hear me on the ITV, I did send a conference call number, so you can call in on the phone if you just want to do a conference call. Here in Northern Kentucky, I'm Alan Kalos, the accreditation coordinator. Louise Kent, who is our QI coordinator, and Ned Kalpashev, who is going to talk a little bit about the South Carolina Performance Management System in just a moment or two. I don't have a complete list of everybody that's on the team. What I thought I'd do is just call attendance from who was at the retreat back a couple months ago in October, because I have a list of people there, so I'll read off who I have there, and if I don't call your name, if you can just jump in at the end and tell everybody who you are. Is Angie Carmen from UK here? How about Michelle Cobb, Lincoln Trail? Rebecca from Madison County?
I'm here, Alan.
Hi, Rebecca.
Michelle, how you doing, Alan?
Stephanie. Alan, Michelle and Stephanie from Lincoln Trail are here.
Okay, Michelle.
Alan, this is Marcy from Bullitt County, too. If we missed you, I'm sorry. We are also here.
I'm not quite calling them in order, so.
Oh, okay.
Because I don't have the list, but I got you, Marcy. How about Carrie from Green River? Gary at the PH?
I'm here.
Brianna from Louisville?
I'm here. Hello.
Brandy from Laurel County?
I'm here. She's there.
Jennifer from Montgomery County?
I'm here.
April in Three Rivers? How about Brittany in Franklin County?
Here.
Billy in Marshall County? Chrissy in Barren River?
Hi everyone, it's Chrissy. I also have Haley Seiler. She is our business management coordinator with us today.
Olivia in Clark County?
I'm here.
And John in Jessamine County?
I'm here.
Okay, that's all the names that I have from the retreat. Is anyone else here that I didn't call?
Pike County is here.
Whoops. We had two people call.
Okay, Angie is on the phone.
Yes.
Pike County.
Who?
Pike County.
Pike County?
Yes.
Okay.
And your name?
Cindy Hamilton.
Thanks, Sandy.
We've also got Jackie Cole and Suetta Clevenger sitting in.
And Sue? What was Sue's name?
Suetta Clevenger.
Thank you.
Nutrition Ed, please. Nutrition Ed.
Melissa Soley from Ashland, Boyd County is also here.
Who's that?
Ashland, Boyd County.
Ashland?
Melissa Soley from Ashland, Boyd County.
Melita.
Don't know.
A little hard to hear some of you.
General District. I'm
Can you
here.
turn the volume up on that?
Okay, you might want to ask the last one person.
Like Kimberly is here, who's Janae.
Lake Cumberland? And who's there from Lake Cumberland?
Janae Tucker.
Shania Tucker?
Janae. Janae.
Shania Tucker?
Okay, I think I have about everybody. We'll send out the minutes. If we missed you, sorry, you can email me and let me know you were here, and we'll add you to the minutes from the meeting. At this time, our feature presentation, Ned Kalpasha, who has been working for the last month or so on the South Carolina system, mentioned this at the last meeting that we had in Franklin County, and Ned will give a little update on what we've done so far.
Okay, hello everybody. I'm going to go ahead and just give you an update of where we're at. About a month and a half ago or so, we've received code from South Carolina and proceeded to look through it and see if we can implement it here locally. It took us a little bit of skill to even get it going. The code is very open source, meaning that nothing's prepackaged. It requires a fair amount of knowledge to go through it and decipher what's relevant and what's not. The file structure, as it was received, has to be maintained in order for this code to run, which creates a little bit of problems. We were able to successfully install it, massage it a little bit, work through a couple of issues, and get a local test server running with a database, at which point we proceeded to work on testing the functionality and the layouts and everything else, and encountered several different problems. I've put in about 2 weeks of work on this myself. We also ended up hiring a programmer with a C# expertise for about 20 hours or so of work to help us compile this and clean it up a little bit in hopes of it making it run a little bit smoother. Final results, we are at about, I'd say, 70 to 80% functionality. There's still some issues. Few things are not being called properly. Some of the procedures don't seem to be there. I am confident that we'll be able to get it running. When and how much more work, I'm not quite sure. It seems every week I'll put in a couple of days of work on it and I make a little bit more progress. So I'm kind of hopeful to have something up and running in the next 2 to 4 weeks that's got pretty much all the functionality there, and we'll be able to put some data in and play with it a little bit more. That's where we're at. I've exchanged a few phone calls and emails with South Carolina and shared some ideas and some installation notes. We here at Northern Kentucky have compiled a detailed installation steps that we went through to get this up and running, which is helpful, and we're willing to share with anybody else that's interested in this. I forwarded this to Jeremy Vanderknife at South Carolina and asked him to include that in his share from now on to help other folks that are working towards this. Our future steps, as I said, we plan on getting this up and running. Seems to be very powerful. It's very flexible. It will really do what we need it to do, and I think once we have it up and running, that we'll get full use out of it. I think I'm going to stop right now and ask if there's any questions at this point, or if anybody has any comments.
Ned, this is.
I don't hear any,
Yeah, there's one.
Ned,
Go
this
ahead.
is Gary Faulkner. So it's written in C++, is that what I understood, or you said you had?
C sharp, yes.
C sharp, okay.
Yeah. Yeah, it's C sharp and then some Visual Basic .NET framework. And he calls a lot of JavaScripts too.
And how hard do you think it's gonna be to maintain it once you get it up and running?
It's hard to tell since I don't have the full functionality yet. There's quite a few, I think, JavaScripts that seem to work, but then sort of don't deliver what they're supposed to do. And the way this is designed, I've actually never seen a database done this way before. I'm from the traditional database design school where you have tables that actually mean something and have, have relationships with each other. But this was truly designed to be 100% flexible on the front end, meaning that person can create relationships on the fly in a browser by linking entities, which is, it's taken me quite a few days just to wrap my mind around it the way this is described in a SQL. So what's difficult is that you cannot just go to the back-end SQL database then and create records that you are having problems with on the front end because you don't really know where they should go and what IDs should be associated with those because it's all done through the front end. And if the front end is not functioning correctly, it becomes a problem. I like the idea. I think it's a very powerful idea. Whether we can get full functionality, if we could, I think it would be a very good system. It's just a matter of whether we can get it or not.
So if I understand you correctly, the database itself is, it's there, the structure's there, but you kind of have the ability to modify it on the fly? Is that a right?
Yes. There's a set amount of tables, but for instance, you insert a performance measure, and then you want to track that performance measure. Every time you insert a data point for that performance measure, it doesn't go in a table that's named performance measure data points. It appears actually as an occurrence in this attribute table. So each point actually has 8, I believe, attributes associated with it in the same table, and they're linked by this occurrence ID. So it's kind of backwards, and it's a little bit resource heavy on a SQL end of things, but it was done that way to truly allow for this maximum flexibility in the front end. I'm still sort of wrapping my head around the actual SQL design. It's a little bit, it's definitely a non-traditional way of thinking.
Without getting too technical into the, me and me can have another conversation if you want to get, in a little more detail. I'd like to ask Louise, who's our performance management manager, maybe give what she's been thinking about where we might go with this.
Well, we're hoping that we can get all of the wrinkles ironed out with South Carolina and with Ned here and sort of be able to move from there. If we find that we're really experiencing a little bit of an impasse, what I would like to do is to go for a grant that would help us to hire the computer expertise that we need over and above what Ned has so that we can finish this out, package it, and then be able to share it with all of the health departments initially in Kentucky and then with anybody else who would like to use it too. But we'd like to have an easier product than what we had initially with all of the instructions for whoever the administrator is going to be and the users so that people can actually use this without spending a lot of money. So that's our hope. And one of the funders I might go to look at is the let's see, Kentucky Public Health, I'm not sure, it's KPHII. Can't think of what it, that's not Kentucky. The National Public Health, NPHII, who were the original funders for South Carolina. to see if they might be able to help us finish this out for the locals. So sort of where we're at right now, we're really hoping we can get things taken care of with South Carolina. Ned can get this all figured out, we can all figure it out, and then we'll be able to share it with you.
When we talked about this a couple of months ago, we really thought that we would have this up and running by now, but we have just run into a few more difficulties than we had in mind from watching the original presentation on this.
And once Ned gets it up and running too, we're going to put it in some of our current performance objectives just to sort of pilot it, see how it goes. We've already got users that Ned has built into our system, and we'll get them to get onto it, enter more data, and see what we can do. So we can have a little bit of a pilot running, hopefully ending up during this fiscal year so that we can start out next fiscal year using this new software. So that's our plan. We'll see if we get there. We'll keep you all in the loop. Anybody have any other questions?
Hey, this is April. I was wondering what type of training you all provided to your staff to help construct the performance objectives.
You mean in the very beginning? How to create performance objectives? You know, okay. I had sort of put together a PowerPoint that I created in-house, and then I went to different department or unit meetings and shared, you know, how to write a performance objective, really pretty close to like a SMART objective, but then making sure that you're able to identify the benchmarks, national, local, you know, maybe statewide benchmarks or otherwise for the different programs. So it was attached to something bigger than just us.
Would you be willing to share your PowerPoint?
It's not very exciting, but I can share it.
Thank you.
Okay.
We'll send it out with the minutes. Anybody else on performance management system? Okay, well, the next item on the agenda, we had said we would do a team building at each of these meetings. And
we're hearing some screeching.
Olivia at Clark County was going to walk us through the Marshmallow Challenge. Are you there, Olivia?
Yes, I'm here, Alan. Thank you for having me today. So, let's see, back in December at a staff meeting, the staff and I went through the Marshmallow Challenge to focus on team building. And the way it worked is we got all these kits together for the employees. I broke them into small teams of 5. And what you can use is very limited. So you can use spaghetti string, of course the marshmallow, masking tape, and the paper lunch bags. And basically what you have them do is build the tallest freestanding structure with the materials that they're given. So it gets kind of interesting. There's a set clear instructions, and I can also send out these instructions if anybody's interested, so I don't have to go through them point by point. But what it comes down to is looking at the assumptions that we all make. When you're first given these materials, there's a lot of assumptions that the team members made that, you know, the spaghetti would break, or it would be easy enough or heavy and sturdy enough to hold up the marshmallow or what have you. And they quickly learned that many of their assumptions were untrue. So this just kind of reinforced that idea that we can't all make assumptions off the bat about our team members and different aspects of the team in general and the project at hand. So, anybody have any specific questions or?
I don't hear anybody. So you can send out like the instructions with that?
Yes, I can send out
To
the
listserv?
instructions that go through step by step on listserv.
When you did this, how did the rest of the group like get into it? Were they real excited about it, or?
At first, they were really confused. When they first opened up the whole point of the paper bag was so they couldn't see their materials until right when they were supposed to start, so they had to adapt to what they had. So at first there was a lot of confusion and kind of, what do we do with this? How do we start? And then once the teams got started, they really got into it, and we're really excited to be competing against each other and also learning from each other at the same time. So I think we had a really good outcome from the project.
So it sounds like it worked really well for getting the team, like an icebreaker, and getting the team started and working together.
Absolutely. Absolutely. It was a great way for them to have to learn to adapt to different situations and, anything that can be thrown at you at any time. So.
Great. Thanks, Olivia. Is there anyone who has done another kind of team building, icebreaker kind of thing that would like to do a presentation next meeting? Anybody volunteers? Well, maybe somebody will jump in when we send out the minutes. The next section on the agenda is QI success stories. This is another standing agenda item, and Chrissy in Barren River is going to tell us something about the customer satisfaction process with permitted establishments. Are you there, Chrissy?
Hello, yes, we're here. Good afternoon, everyone. I have with me today Haley Seiler. She is our performance management coordinator. She's been with us just a little over a year, and so very thankful to have her. She's going to talk to you about a process that we went through with our environmental staff and our permitted food service establishments. And I'm going to turn it over to Haley. Thank you.
Okay. Hi, can everybody hear me okay?
Yes.
Thanks. Good. Okay, cool. When I came on about a year ago, an early priority was our environmental branch. They are really big. They do a lot to protect public health, and they're really, really regulated. They already have, really good performance measures in the sense that they have the EMIS system to help kind of track everything. But they know that they needed to kind of move beyond that and get a little bit more information. So we also are doing a really big push as an agency on customer satisfaction, figuring out how we're serving our community, how our community views us, and what we can do to better serve those people. So after some discussion, our environmental team decided that they would really like to do a customer satisfaction project with food service establishments. For our 8-county area, there are right at 1,000 food service establishments that the environmentalists inspect regularly. So really big volume, really important component of public health. So we sent out just a little one-page questionnaire that had it had several measures on there that were kind of asking about, what kind of food service establishment are you? When were you last inspected? What kind of inspection did you receive? Was it a standard inspection or an inspection as a result of a complaint possibly? Kind of figuring out, who we were looking at. And then we asked a couple of questions that we had them rank quantitatively, asking about their experiences with our environmentalists. Were they satisfied with their interactions with the environmentalists? Were the environmentalists knowledgeable? Were they, were the food service establishment owners or managers, whoever was dealing with them, did the environmentalists treat those people fairly and with respect? What were their interactions like? How did they view us? And were our services helpful to them in that process? We got overwhelmingly really positive quantitative feedback. I don't know if Chrissy has had a chance to send out. There's a little one-page summary report that'll be in the minutes that you can kind of see that. Yeah, I mean, overwhelmingly people are like, yes, I'm satisfied. I agree. I think our environmentals are important. But what was really important was we had a couple of open-ended qualitative questions on there, and kind of the feedback that we got qualitatively was really important to us. First thing was, that was also really positive. We got a lot of comments that were kind of talking about how these food service establishments see the environmentalists as really important partners, that they view our environmentalists as people who are there to help them. And that was really nice. Environmentalists don't always have the best reputation, especially for restaurant owners. So kind of, it was a good boost to the environmentalists to see that. But more importantly, a couple of other themes came out of those open-ended comments. One was kind of noting that, like almost all environmental departments in Kentucky, our environmental department is understaffed for budget reasons. And we got a lot of comments that were along the lines of, you know, I really wish that I really wish the environmentalists could come more often. When they do come for their standard inspection, it's so helpful to me. I learn so much. They bring great materials. It's a really positive experience for me and for my restaurant. So that's nice to know. But we've also, you know, reacted by trying to make our environmentalists, talking to them about being a little bit more proactive, about making sure that that food service establishment owner knows that even if they're not coming for inspections, you know, every 4 months, that food service establishment owner can still reach out to us and get resources from us even when it's not a visit. So kind of emphasizing that, you know, even if we're not physically coming around, we're still available and we're still partners to you and we still want to give you that information that you value. Another thing that came out was there were just a handful of comments like this, but we wanted to take them really seriously. A couple of people talking about times when they had made a complaint about, you know, raised an issue on another food service establishment. Somebody was really concerned about whether or not somebody was selling jam with a license, for instance. And what we learned from those comments was, yes, anytime that any sort of complaint comes in, our environmentalists go out, they inspect it, they check on it. If action needs to be taken, they take action. They take those really seriously, but there's no opportunity or avenue for them to give feedback. So what we've done is just implement a really simple system where if you want feedback on, like, you know, was this followed up on, you can leave your name and your contact information. And so when you make that complaint, you can leave that additional information, and then the environmentalist can then turn around and send you a very, very simple, actually pretty non-informative little form that says, hey, thank you for, you know, your concern of blank date. You know, the Barron River District Health Department's environmental staff investigated this on blank date. Thank you for your time. It doesn't give any sort of additional information on whether or not, you know, there was actually something squirrely going on. It's just very straightforward, but what it does is it lets those people who are making those complaints know that we did in fact follow up on that. So that there's a little bit more of a back and forth there. And then the final thing was, we had a couple of comments about people being confused about where they could find forms, who they could communicate with, who they could reach out to. We're hoping that some of that will improve by, you know, kind of those, having our environmentalists, you know, remind people, you know, you can reach out to us at any time, not just, you know, when we're physically stopping by your restaurant to check things out. But the other thing that resulted in is we have a CDC public health associate who's doing a lot of work on our website. And because of this project, she's made kind of revamping the environmental portion of our website a really big priority. Putting a lot more information on there, reorganizing it, making it much more accessible, and making it much more visible from our health department website. Before, you kind of had to click through multiple links sometimes to find the right thing. So as a result, she's worked with our environmental staff to help make all that a lot more visible. So those are kind of the takeaways from that project. It was a really big scale, big volume, time intensive project with about $1,000 of postage involved. So we're not going to repeat anything on this scale for the next 3 or 4 years, but we are interested in doing some focus groups in the next year to kind of follow up on this and, figure out, are people seeing changes? We're really interested in what's going on with our website as we slowly update that and try to make it more of a tool for people in our community. Chrissy, do you have anything to add?
For poster and then.
At KPHA, I will have a poster presentation. I'm putting together a storyboard on this project. So if you're interested, you can come by, see my poster, ask any questions. Yeah, that's great. Yeah. Thanks. Does anybody have any questions?
It sounds like you did a really good job of using the data that you gathered to make changes in your organization and how you did business, which is really a very positive use of survey data.
Thanks. That's what we're trying to do, slowly but surely.
I maybe missed it early in the presentation, but how was this survey distributed, and what kind of numbers did you get back as far as those completing it?
So we sent everything out via a one-page paper survey, along with some other letters about information about upcoming certification and food manager certification classes. So everything got sent out on paper, and then we also slipped a little pre-addressed and stamped envelope in there for them to send it back to us. We sent it out to over 900 establishments, and we got 183 back before our cutoff date. So we had a pretty good response rate, and 20%. I think for just sending something out in the mail like that and actually getting it mailed back in, I was pretty pleased. And it was a pretty representative sample. We put some information in there on, what kind of establishment are you, what kind of inspections have you had in the last year. So we felt like we got a good representation. So
you got samples back from like fast food and sit-down restaurants at a pretty comparable to what your population is.
Right. There are also places like gas stations that have convenience stores attached. Those are also inspected by us. So across the board, everybody was pretty good about giving us some feedback, which was nice to see.
That's great.
Yeah. Thanks.
Any other questions from anyone?
This is Becky in Madison County. I just had a question. Being a previous environmentalist, I thought that was really interesting. And I think you covered this, but did each establishment, they didn't have to identify exactly who they were?
No, they didn't. No, the establishments did not have to identify themselves. A couple of people kind of sweetly would write in hey, this is so-and-so from so-and-so, thank you guys so much, but it was completely anonymous. There was no identifying information on the return.
Thank you. We had talked about doing that one time, and all of my restaurants had said, I would never tell what I think because there would be repercussions, so that's why I was wondering about that.
No, and I mean, in cases where people, there were some very minor things like the communication thing, somebody saying, I had no idea where I could have gone to find this form, what was I supposed to do? So we definitely got some feedback that was constructive, but I felt like it was truly anonymous. And I'll also say that our environmentalists were a little are you sure you really want to do this? We're going to get back a bunch of really ugly feedback. And they were really pleasantly surprised to see how overwhelmingly positive it was. So I would encourage your environmental team to think about doing it. It was actually pretty morale building for them. They don't get a lot of love out there in the field, so it was nice to see some recognition.
I agree. Thank you.
This is Louise. I was wondering, would you feel comfortable sharing your survey with us or not?
Yeah, of course. I'd be happy to. I'll send it to Chrissy, who will send it in for the minutes.
This is something that our environmentalists have talked about for a while, but they really haven't done anything yet. So this might be just the tool they need to get rolling in that direction. Thanks.
Yeah, Yeah, thank you.
Okay, as a standing agenda item, QI success stories, is there any other stories out there that you would be willing to share at the next meeting? Anyone?
Hi, Alan. This is John Borbeck from Jessamine County, and
Yes.
I'll share our health resource guide that we worked on.
Great. I'm sure Brianna will appreciate that next month in Louisville. Thank you.
This
You're
is
welcome.
what, the resource guide?
And what was the title?
It's a health
Of your-
resource guide.
Health Resource Guide?
Yes, sir.
Okay, great. The next agenda item is performance management open discussion, and we talked about South Carolina system and how we're trying to get that going, and maybe Louise can give a little bit about what we've been doing in the meanwhile as far as our performance management.
I like how he put me on the spot just now. Really, the only thing we're doing is we're continuing to use our Excel spreadsheets. That's all set up for us by division. People enter information into the spreadsheets by division for their putting their own data in. But then we have reorganized ours so that all of that information then gets sort of shifted into different spreadsheets by health issues. Alan had worked on identifying 9 categories of health issues that we work on. So instead of just looking at how many widgets and what we're doing and all of that, we're looking at what health issues we're actually addressing through these performance objectives. So, because that's really the bottom line. When you talk to your Board of Health, they really don't care how many people you've seen, but they are interested if you have decreased the cancer rates or if you're improving childhood immunization rates or things like that. So we have sort of pocketed in those categories, and our report, the report I give quarterly and at the end of the year, has to do with the health issues rather than how each division is doing. Although each division director and our district director of health can get in there to see how each division is doing, we're actually focusing on those health issues. I hope that makes sense. So anybody else, please jump in.
Louise, would you mind sharing one of your quarterly reports with me?
Yeah, I can do that. Like I said, it's nothing fancy. It's, I'll do that. I can share with you guys it would have been our first quarter this year. We're just now getting in all of our data for second quarter, so I could share with you what we did in our first quarter, what it looks like, and you guys can maybe share some comments at the next meeting.
Is anyone else using any other system for collecting performance management data and/or reports?
This is April. We have purchased Clipfolio, which is just $20 a month, and are in the beginning stages of building that system to how we want it to look.
And kind of, hey, it's Fan River. Sorry. We're kind of in the beginning stages of really trying to do an agency-wide performance management system. I'd actually talked to Louise a couple of months ago about what you guys have done, what's worked. Trying to start to pilot the system, we got a little overwhelmed realizing that maybe we were trying to do everything all at once. So Chrissy and I just had a really successful meeting with our exchange team, which is our branch leaders across the health department. Kind of going through, and we asked everybody beforehand to send in 3 to 5 programs or program areas that were a really high priority for them for whatever reason. And then we went through a prioritization process and came up with 8 projects to start piloting the system with our exchange team, so that we could start hitting regularly some things that really matter to our exchange staff, but also get kind of that leadership team really involved and helping us pilot and figure out kinks in the system as we go. And then the idea is to slowly over time kind of snowball and pick up more and more programs until we're truly an agency-wide system. So, baby steps.
About a year or so ago, and I think it was shared with this group, the Montana PowerPoint on the system that they had developed in Montana. It showed how they were linking together their community health assessment, their community health improvement plan, the strategic plan, program plans, budget, performance management system, and evaluation, all each tying into the other. We've been working for the last year or so to try and connect all those pieces together. I wonder if anybody else out there has remembers that circular chart from Montana, or have you had any success with linking all of these different pieces that are in the FAB accreditation standards together? Is there anyone else out there that's like even thinking about this kind of organization? I guess not. Well, we've had some conversations like with our senior staff and try to bring that concept up whenever need to go to them and say, well, it's time to work on our strategic plan, and the strategic plan's got to be linked to the health improvement plan. And so every time we start on one of those projects, we try to really reinforce how they're linked together and aren't all like separate items. And it is a challenge to get that concept across. Anybody else have anything to say about performance management? The last item on the agenda, well, number one, as a standing item, was to discuss any specific measures from the FAB standards and measures. Did anyone have any specific measures that they want to answer for next week or next month? Okay, the other item that several people asked about was the FAB annual reports. And I know that let me see, April and Brittany in Northern Kentucky, since we were accredited in February, we just got the notice that our second annual report is due, and we started working on it, so this was real timely for us. I thought I would just go over, I had mailed out the forms, and I thought I'd go over a little bit the process that FAB goes through for the annual reports. Once you're accredited and you get back your report from the review team, often they will list a certain number of measures that you are to report on an annual basis. So this is part, the annual report is actually in two parts. And the first part has three questions. And the first question really, is there any changes in your health department that would really affect your accreditation status? Specifically, have you had a change in your director and or big budget cuts or anything else, natural disasters, anything that would really affect your accreditation status? The second question is to report on whatever specific measures were pointed out by the review team when you got your accreditation status. Those would have been listed, and you need to report what you're doing or what you have done over the last year to address those specific measures. And then the third question is whether or not you've defaulted or are in danger of defaulting on any state or federal grants, or not fulfilling your part of the bargain on those. So those are the three questions in part one, and like I said, that comes due at the end of the quarter in which you were accredited. Like we were accredited in February, so anyone accredited in February or January, February, or March, their first report would be due the following March 31st, and so forth. So if you were accredited anywhere in the second quarter, it's the end of, it would be like June 30th or April 30th or December 31st, depending on which quarter you were accredited in. So that's part one of the report. And once you're accredited, you'll have access to the documents that I emailed out. But only at the beginning of that quarter will you get a new screen that shows up on the eFab screen where you entered your documentation, and it'll have like those three questions. And if you answer yes to any of those three questions, then you have to submit the form that I had sent out as a Word document, and with answering those questions. That section will go to the FAB staff, and if there are any questions about it, it'll go to the review board, and that will determine whether or not you continue your accreditation status or if you need to report further on it. If that's accepted by FAB, then you have access to Section 2. And Section 2 doesn't affect your accreditation status, but it goes to like the evaluation committee. And there are a couple parts of Section 2. One is to report on any quality improvement processes that you've gone through in the last year. And you can report, you have to report on at least one, but you can report on up to three. And it gives some detailed questions about your quality improvement process. And then there are some questions about what you've done on some of the main parts of the things like your community health assessment, your community health improvement plan, your quality improvement plan, and your strategic plan, what progress you've made on implementing those. And then the last part of that is what kind of innovative things have you done or have you been involved with? And this is kind of like for future standards and measures, future editions, what they might be looking at adding to the accreditation standards and measures. The quality improvement that you need to report on, at least one, it would be good to report on something that was mentioned as a weakness in your feedback that you get on your report when you are accredited. It doesn't have to be, but kind of the concept is if you're going to initiate quality improvement processes, that those processes would reflect either something that has shown up on your FAB report or on other feedback reports that you get. So that's kind of in a nutshell what the report, yearly annual reports to FAB look like. And then like the section 2, you got 30 days after section 1 is approved by FAB to submit section 2. But you can be working on that. You can download the forms. Once you're accredited, you can download the forms and start working on them before you know that they're actually due, or they open up the eFAB part where you'll then upload that report. So that's kind of in a nutshell what your reports might look like, or what the process is. Are there any questions? I hope that takes, for those who are newly accredited, takes some of the anxiety away of being concerned about it. I think if you read through the documents that I sent out, they're pretty straightforward, and it's a fairly easy process. It's not nearly as involved as being accredited in the first place. So that's getting close to the end of our conference here. I did add the train system for the MAP trainings and the link to the train if people want to sign up for that. I don't know if anyone has anything further to say about the MAP trainings. I know Louisa's been involved with it, and Gary, is there anything you want to say about it?
Well, Ellen, I did have a question of the group. Does anybody know of anybody? I've had one call where the cost was prohibitive and they were not going to be able to send as many people as they would like. Does anybody else have any feedback along that lines?
Any feedback on what?
Oh, on people saying that they'd like to send more than just the one staff person, but the cost was prohibitive.
Oh.
I haven't heard anything yet, but I'm way up here, so I don't know. How many people, or how many health departments, Gary, has said that they'd like to send more than one?
I've only had one health department actually call me about the cost. There's 40 people registered right now for the 3. And I know at least the one health department I talked to, they had community partners that had not registered yet. So depending on whether something could be done on the cost or not, may depend on how many they can send.
We'll certainly send out the link again when we send out the minutes to this meeting to our accreditation coordinators and anybody else who might be interested.
Gary, when will that be opened up to people outside of Kentucky?
The plan was to open it up at the end of this week, to send out a notice to other states. And I'll probably be doing a call with Louise, Chrissy, April, maybe 1 or 2 others about who we ought to reach out to and how we might reach out to them. Because we don't want to necessarily broadcast it to the world that we're offering MAP training at the cost of $500 for people outside of Kentucky. when it would cost $1,500 to $3,000 if they were to go to NACCHO for that training.
Any other thoughts, questions? We got about 2 more minutes left.
We sent out the updated accreditation map, showing where everybody was at in the accreditation process. I've had one district reach out to me and tell me that their status had changed. If anybody else's status has changed, if you'll just shoot me an email, I'll update that map one more time, maybe towards the end of the month, and get it back out to everybody.
This is Chrissy. What is the actual date of our February meeting?
Hi, this is Brianna in Louisville. I have the date picked out. So it'll be February 2nd, I'm sorry, not 2nd, 10th, it's a Tuesday, February 10th, from 1 to 2:30 p.m., and that's Eastern Time. So February 10th, from 1 to 2:30 p.m. Eastern, and I'll send out our address and all that kind of stuff with the agenda.
Okay, and we'll be meeting at the Louisville Center?
Yep, it's downtown, it's our main building.
It's been a while since I've been there, but it's a nice building.
Yeah, I'm sure it hasn't changed much.
We will look forward to meeting everybody on February 10th at 1 o'clock. And if there's no other business, we can adjourn. Anybody have any last comments?